still awake? Long day? Can I get a hands in here? How many people are familiar with Tor? Yeah, everybody. And how many people are familiar with I2P? Well, I'm done then. I don't have to talk. So my name is John Liu. I am, what can I say? I've been playing around with computers for about the past 40 years, unbelievably. I was known back in the day of playing around with the blue boxes, figuring out that you could tap out the phone numbers and so forth. So it was a scandal back then, like you mentioned. I'm here to talk about I2P and the web. I didn't know the level of the audience, and I apologize. So this might be a little bit too simplistic for you guys. I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with I2P, the difference between that and Tor, and in fact why it's important in the first place. I think pretty much all of us here understand, but allow me or permit me to at least go into it for the people who are not. So my talk, 3 big ideas I hope you guys can get from this. The very first one is that we value privacy, and importantly, privacy has a value. I think, who disagrees with that actually? I'm good. You do?
I don't think most Americans value privacy.
Exactly. Most Americans don't value privacy. And in fact, how would you value privacy? What is privacy to you? How do you monetize privacy? So that's a good question. We're going to talk about that briefly. The second thing that's important is online anonymity. I have a very hard time pronouncing that word. Apologize. Don't ask me to say it again. I think that, especially these days, being anonymous and how to be anonymous, I think, in fact, you guys might be able to teach me something there. But I think that's very important. And third is that I2P is better than Tor. And I think everyone here who's familiar with I2P realizes that. I still think I'm finished. I mean, if it's this thing, so. Okay. So, first part, privacy has value. We talk about this, but why does privacy have value? And what is that value? Is that value the same to you, to me? Well, it turns out that there's a whole industry that's actually working on that. It's monetizing privacy. In fact, the most egregious, company is Facebook. They see everything. Your loss of privacy is big business to Facebook, to Google, to all the people that can actually target advertisements to you and manipulate your behavior. Right? I would go as far as saying that the entire business of tech is focused on invading your privacy. Pretty important. And as you say, most Americans don't realize it. And they're giving it away for free. It's like giving it to people your key to your house. So be it, basically. Right? There's a field of science, behavioral science, called captology. Who's familiar with this term? Anybody? So, persuasive technology, in fact, is the intersection, of basically behavioral analytics and basically you. It's really trying to take advantage of your behavioral biases, right? Your fallacies, and really take advantage of that and market that to you. You might, for instance, like to scroll on Facebook, go through the news, on LinkedIn. Well, every time you do that, you're providing a little piece of information to those companies that can take advantage and target specific research, specific advertisements, and modify your behavior. One of the things that I like to bring up, especially around this time, is the election. And we have all realized that this is probably the most polarized election out of any of them. And I've got a prediction, which is that in the next 4 years, the next election will be even more polar. And the reason is simple. Because of technology, because of the ability to target your specific desires, needs, preferences, you can see the news, the information that you care about, right? There's no such thing as unbiased news. There's no such thing as unbiased media. To go there. So, right? It's a reality. And the sad part is, technology is enabling that, right? So if you don't like chickens, you're going to find lots of websites that say, I hate chickens, right? And so forth. And we're headed that way. So we better be prepared. This, by the way, is a very lucrative field. I encourage anyone who needs a job to look at this. So, hey, fighting back. Now, we're all familiar with Tor. I'm not going to go into the history of Tor. I'll just go into briefly for those people. Okay, let me ask this question. Who is not familiar with Tor so I can actually tailor this a little bit more specific to you? One. Just get out. Yes. Onion computing, anonymous computing, communications. Do I need to go into this, basically? You like the little diagram?
That's the person next to
That's the person next to you, exactly. Very quickly, how Tor works. We understand this. I'm not going to go into it. It is a circuit switching, basically, mechanism, right? There is front-end encryption. There's no back-end encryption. It allows you to access the ClearNet, basically. All simple stuff, right? Very quickly, the whole concept of onion, basically routing with three-layer encryption, how basically you forward to each circuit, basically take out a layer. No need to go into that. Any questions? Yeah, okay, yeah, good. Right. Very easy to set up. For the one person who's never done it, just download the Tor browser and you're good to go. So, yep. So, okay. What does Tor guarantee? It guarantees privacy, right? It guarantees the A word, which ain't pronounced. So, right. We all know it really doesn't do that. And why? So let's talk about the various flaws of Tor, basically. We'll go to each one. So obviously, entry point surveillance is pretty easy. It can be done on your local router, right? I can hop on your router. My iPhone can sniff out whatever you're basically browsing at. Very simple, right? The software, hardware, basically fingerprinting. Who's not familiar with software fingerprinting? Okay, this is a really tough audience. So. Yes, but yes, I'm impressed actually. Okay. Everyone's known to turn off their JavaScript, turn off their Flash, and go down the list. Yes, okay, good. Timing analysis. Who's actually performed timing analysis? So timing analysis is very straightforward. If you send an email through Tor, right, it goes in, it's going to come out the other end. If I monitor that, basically the exit nodes, I may be able to map out. And the scary thing is that in the land of cognitive computing and deep learning, people are writing deep learning algorithms to do specifically that, to sniff out basically and map the graph, which is what the Tor network is, right? And through basically repeat analysis, get enough data, you're good, right? I can also, obviously, impersonate one of the relay nodes, right? Again, more information for me. And there are papers published in academia that actually specify this. So if you guys want to do it, you have a GPU card. One of my coworkers, in fact, and friends, Andrew Trask, did exactly that. So, destination fingerprinting, pretty straightforward, man in the middle. Exit node targeting, I mean, again, these are pretty straightforward. Who's not familiar with any of these terms, actually? So I want to emphasize in the middle, right? The central server repository, biggest problem of Tor, right? There's an analogy to I2P, but it's not centralized, it's decentralized, and we can talk about that a little bit. Okay. Who's familiar with this person? So, Harvard student, Eldo Kim, very smart guy, decided he didn't want to study, decided that he would actually email in a bomb threat because he didn't want to take his final exam, right? Of course, he did it through Tor. He's very smart, right? What was the problem? He decided to use the university network, and guess what? There was only one person from Harvard on Tor that day. They figured out who it was. So, luckily, he was sentenced to only community service. He's actually headed back to Harvard, I hear. So, I thought he was so good that, CEO material there. So, I'm speeding through my presentation. At this point, what questions do you all have? You all agree? Okay, yes.
Wasn't there signs that the government FBI was using, trying to manipulate Tor by setting up access points when they were trying to track down the owner of Silk Road?
Yeah, exactly. There's actually, was it Project Omnium? I can't pronounce the word. Omnimius, basically. That specifically was, Tor has a lot of different attack vectors that you can take advantage of. And most importantly is the fact that, it is circuit switching. And because of circuit switching, if you can map out those circuits, right, and it's also two-way, there's a lot of things you can do to identify basically source and destination. Right. And unlucky for him, he unfortunately got caught with this 26 million Bitcoin. So, yeah. Okay, onward. What's a better way? It is the Invisible Internet Project. And obviously you all are quite familiar with it. And who, I might ask this one, who doesn't have I2P, an I2P router installed on their home computer?
I do not.
Oh, you do not? Not yet. Hopefully at the end of this conversation you will actually. So, okay. What is I2P? Originated in 2003 by someone named Jay Random. That's a pseudonym. We have no idea who it is. It might be one of you, actually, for all we know. So, right? It is a decentralized network layer. Most importantly, it's decentralized. That's a certain, that allows certain advantageous, is less open to attack, okay? I'll explain why. It's end-to-end encryption. In fact, it's so end-to-end, the actual addresses are hashes themselves, actually. So, we'll talk about that. And lastly, it is a totally enclosed net. There is no, basically, out proxy to the clear net. There's no email out to the normal email addresses. Your email address, you email, it's completely inside the I2P network, right? There's some advantages of that, and we'll go through that. So, go through a little bit. Sorry for this marketing stuff, just different audience. So, yeah, it's fully distributed, self-organizing, and resilient. You can take out basically, a set of nodes. It doesn't matter. It'll find its way. Number 2, it is peer-to-peer friendly. Again, ignore the pictures there. So, yep. 3rd, it is packet switch versus circuit switch. And that's pretty important because, as good as Tor is for the circuit switching, it's still basically open to a lot of attack vectors that obviously the FBI is quite familiar with, even the FBI does. So, right? It relies on short-lived unidirectional tunneling. Again, big advantages. And lastly, it is based on garlic routing. Who has heard of garlic routing? Okay, all right, you guys came, getting your money's worth right here. So, what is garlic routing? You can see my hand-drawn diagram. It's a concept of basically very similar to the onion router, except it adds an extra layer of complexity in the sense that messages are actually bundled together. So when you actually, a node forwards basically out to the next node, it's forwarding a bundle of messages. And we'll talk about that. Why is it called garlic? Just very quickly, because this is the whole concept. Okay. And by the way, they both smell bad, and you probably know that. So. Okay. In a, I guess, normal setting for the I2P network, your message that you send out is forwarded to 3 relay nodes. Those relay nodes will forward themselves out to 3 others. Each message is aggregated together, combined with other messages. There's a random delay introduced, so that in fact you cannot actually perform time analysis with reliability. That's going to tell you. Let's go forward. So, yeah, tunnels are unidirectional, very short term, and in fact, for you and your recipient, if you just think about it, in this most simplest form, it requires 4 tunnels, right? 1 out for each person, 1 in for each person. It's very hard to track. Okay. Keys to I2P, garlic routing, message bundling, end-to-end encryption, and then random delays, right? These address a lot of the weaknesses of Tor. And who doesn't understand it? Raise your hand. So I'll ask you to explain it to me. So, okay. Right. One of the biggest concepts of, because remember, I2P is a totally enclosed net, right? You're not going to be able to hit websites, as you know, in the public domain. What you can do is actually, just like in Tor, setting up hidden services, you can actually set up your own websites. And in I2P, they're known as deep sites. So it's deep without the D. So deep sites, yes. So very easy. If you actually install I2P, you already will be running a deep site for yourself. Basically, you'll be serving that. You can actually modify whatever you want. Just don't put your name on it, obviously. There's no reason, right? So we know that. So,
Latitude,
is that?
latitude and longitude.
Your name and address
So they
will
can
work. That's fine.
target
Yeah.
right name address, so.
Exactly. In fact, if you want to remember your actual name in I2P, it's a hash. So I mean, it's pretty good if you remember 26 characters. It's not bad. So what we're seeing increasingly in I2P is the adoption of the cryptocurrencies to basically play nice with I2P. Now this is actually a very, very significant move currently because, in fact, if you think about the current status of the ClearNet, you can make a very strong case that, in fact, ClearNet, for all its flaws, shouldn't be the way it should be, right? We should all actually be moving to I2P, right? In fact, even companies should be working I2P, right? It eliminates basically all the all the potential data leakages, security issues that they have currently. Okay, so cryptocurrencies, right? We have seen the adoption of a new exchange, basically, that will actually exchange the various cryptocurrencies that you have. In fact, the ones listed were just adopted fairly recently, within the last month. And we're seeing a wider and wider adoption, in fact, using I2P as a means of communicating and basically verifying. Secure email. right? So if you are a, what do you call it, a dissident, if you are a, want to talk to an ex-girlfriend, this is a boyfriend, excuse me, this is a perfect way to do it. And secure email is truly secure on I2P. No email addresses, you don't even need an email address to send out secure email. Emails are hashes, they're all randomly delayed. So you could literally sign up, send your email, log off, 2 hours later, 3 hours, a day later, email gets sent. There's no way to track you actually in that sense. Headers themselves are, yes, sorry.
So, say I want to send email to like 20 different people, will it delay for each person, or is it delayed for?
That's a good question. I believe it may introduce the same delay per email, but you can actually target the delay per relay. And obviously, they're not all going to go through the same relay to reach that same destination. So I can look into that, but that's a good question. It's, I'm very happy you have 20 people to send email to on I2P. That's great, actually. What was I gonna say? I lost my- Okay, yes. So very importantly, headers are completely basically encrypted on here. And one of the big problems with any type of email encryption, especially even Tor, is the fact that you're going to have unencrypted headers. And part of that is because it doesn't go out into the clear net, very importantly. I encourage all of you, if you all launch I2P routers at home, it'll just make my connection so much faster. So definitely encourage you. Okay.
Is the hash that's your email address, that's tied to your home router if you're running it on,
No, so actually, ironically, you don't need the hash. If you create one, you can always create one, destroy it. You can create it once, send once, receive one email and destroy it. So it's not attached to your router. So there's not at all.
So you put that on the ClearNet site, so this is not, contact me on I2P here?
Oh, you could do that if you want, yeah. You could.
That's what I'm asking, would that expose any information?
So what you find very shortly is that when you start communicating with your friends in I2P, that you never go resort to the ClearNet, right? In fact, you could literally, if you want to, create your own site with your email. People can go there and contact you, basically. You can get registered, on the NetDB. People will find it. You can definitely do that. If you want to do it on a ClearNet site, you can do that also. But yes, the way to contact people, the way to actually travel to these heap sites is actually with that hash, which HTTP : and then / the whole hash, basically .I2P is the extension, and you go there. Yep. Any other questions? Yes.
I did toy with this for a bit, and it asks for like support forward for more like any other thing like torrent clients or torrent clients. They want like support forward so they can do like better detection stuff.
Okay.
Is there any danger in that from a privacy standpoint because you're opening yourself up from a port perspective, or are they just seeing your traffic and everybody is screwed? Right?
Well, when you say port forward, in terms of torrenting.
I think when I was setting up an I2P client, it was like, hey, if you can set up a port forward range or a single port or something, I don't know if I'm off base, but they said, you get better connectivity, just like a torrent client, you get better connectivity if you have a direct connection to a port instead of the NAT and NAT relay or whatever you call that, right?
And your home routers. Yeah. So you don't need to do that. In fact, it won't really help you. And I'll tell you, the one big downfall of I2P currently, which we'll get to, is that there really aren't that many nodes. And because there aren't that many nodes currently, you find out that transfer speeds are on the order of 20 to 30 kilobytes a second, basically. So even you set that up, I'm just saying that you could do that, but I'm afraid that it won't really help you that much. So you could just ignore that, basically what I'm saying.
So it's not making anything any better. I'm just making the assumption if it's better for a torrent client, it's better for I2P now.
But torrents run hopefully at your download upload speed, whereas I can tell you that right now I2P is rather slow, and that's one of the things they're trying to address. But just simply because of connectivity, because that as you download this, the preset speeds are actually minuscule, for good and bad, basically. So yeah, in fact, so who's a ham radio person here? Right. So you guys know about WinLink and how WinLink works, right? So I would argue that. I'm sorry?
I've never actually been able to get WinLink to work.
I'm sorry to hear
I've tried
that.
and no one seems to know how to make that thing work.
Actually, I've been wondering what it is, but since it has the word win in it, I didn't pay attention.
Winner right there. Okay, so for those who do not know, WinLink is a email forwarding system. It's a mesh network on amateur radio, actually on a set of frequencies that allows you to basically, it's a program you set up on your home radio that basically receives and forwards packets, messages in terms of email. It also, because of the crippling of ham radio, operates at 1200 baud, I think, so good old days, right? But nevertheless, it's actually very, very popular because what you find is during national emergencies, where power grid goes down, jammed cell centers, sites go down, get jammed, whatever, it actually is very, very useful. And in fact, I can actually help put you in touch with Steve Warnerman, who runs the, he'll talk to me afterwards. Yeah. But I bring that up because it's actually very, very similar to this. In fact, when you create a node on there, you're actually also creating essentially, an I2P router, different network. And if you just think about that, you think about where we're headed, in terms of security, tying this on the internet, tying to WinLink, which is also actually hooked up into the internet, it does actually interface with the internet. There's a lot to be done there, and it's going to be very interesting. Okay. Comparison of Tor to I2P. The concept of cell versus message, I'm assuming that we all get that, right? The concept of a client versus router, nodes basically. Circuit versus tunnel, pretty important. Directory versus NetDB. So there is a central repository in the sense that it's not central, it's not absolutely central, basically. There is a concept of a NetDB. What it does is really stores, it's sort of like the DNS, basically, right? It acts as a DNS to tell you where to go. But the advantage of that is, first, it's actually not one, it's actually distributed, number two. And frankly, if you attack the various NetDB servers, it will spawn a different one somewhere else. So frankly, anyone who runs an I2P node will in fact be running a NetDB service underneath. That has a lot of implications too, and especially, I'm not sure if you guys have talked about, people have been talking about, the whole DNS and the dying attack, and how, in fact, people using Bitcoin, blockchain, really, to store your net registry. You heard about that? Right? Who disagrees with that? Why the hell have we done it yet? Because we're paying some company dime to make, basically one thing. It's ridiculous. Okay, so hidden service, right? Each site, very, very similar. Onion versus garlic. And I can gladly talk more about garlic routing. It's actually pretty interesting. Less and more secure. Flaws. No access to ClearNet. No access to, can't get out of there basically, right? And frankly, whether you call that a minus, I think consider it a plus, okay? No Facebook. You know what? There's a business for Facebook on I2P. Just invade them, privacy and privacy, yes, perfect. Currently a small user base. I think there's about 2,300 nodes up right now. A lot of them are overseas. Still vulnerable to attack. So no matter what you do, there are ways to find basically. It's just much more secure, but it's not perfectly secure. And in fact, there's actually, I think, an academic challenge right now to figure out how to hack into I2P, basically, right now. So, again, yes?
And if a university does, are you going to be pussies about it and say, oh, you shouldn't hack us, we're great people? Or are you going to say, we're cypherpunks, that's really cool, you found it?
No, in fact, it's absolutely encouraged, right? Cool. Because any hack that they find is an improvement to the basically the network. And we want to improve the network. And frankly, I'm not too worried about the academics or FBI, so it's the other one I worry about. So, and I'd be glad to talk about current attacks that people have tried. It's very interesting what people are doing. It is opening a new world with basically high performance computing, with the access of everyone having access to GPUs, allow you to do anything with the net. But that's why it's fun. Last session, let's basically wrap and say that I2P is the future. If you believe what I say, which you should all do then, you should all go home, install I2P, throw away that Tor browser. Actually, you don't even need to throw away Tor browser. You can actually integrate Tor browser so that it automatically accesses I2P sites. Right? And in fact, from now on, you'll be just browsing .I2P instead of .INET. So, any questions? Yes, let's you first.
I'm sorry, are there facilities where people will set up a proxy to their regular internet? Like, are there, if you wanted to do the dumb thing that everybody wants to do and get on Facebook through I2P, are there like open proxies from China.com to
So-
for people to get on Facebook?
So here's the problem, or maybe not a problem. So there have been, and I say there have been because there's some of them, actually almost all of them shut down, right? And they've shut down because if you realize this network is very small,
Right.
and because of that smallness, you don't want to be that op proxy for a variety of reasons, basically. And so we hope that basically as the network grows, that in fact people will come back and set up those op proxies. There's actually a piece of software that allows you to do that, just no one dares to install it. So
If you have lots of tubes, just install it, right?
yeah, you know, and frankly, you should all not just install. Okay, so very important. You should not just install this at home, right? You should get an Amazon node and VPN into it, and install it VPN and Amazon node. Just be crystal clear about that. So yes.
So, my question is more high level. Tor recently changed their mission statement to include not only, we're trying to create a better, safer internet, yada yada, but that we're providing a avenue for people with limited, options and freedom of information to get access, to that information, which basically recategorizes Tor from a technology tool to a dissident tool. They can say, look, it says it on their website. That's what they're trying to do. And therefore, as I've fought different, legal departments and companies that say this is legitimate tool to do X, Y, or Z, what is I2P's, kind of like public mission stance? And do they stick to this is just a, privacy, connection tool, or is it, how easy do you think it's going to be to kind of mainline this? You say getting companies that work for a company. I could easily put up our company website on I2P and let me create our website and start that, help that trend. But I can't if it's, known as a tool for Chinese business.
So I equate that to saying that I have lots of money at home. Please come and rob me. But no, so I2P does not have as noble a mission as a dissident tool. And frankly, setting yourself up as a dissident tool may not be probably the best approach to get commercial business to get on, basically, your network.
Don't know what's going on over there.
Right. So, the only thing I could say is that unlike Tor, which is run by that foundation, I2P is run by a foundation. It's still the same foundation, unfortunately. But there is not, at least yet, have been a more nobler mission to I2P other than to say that we're trying to basically increase privacy for individuals. And again, whether you argue for privacy for dissidents, privacy is a different matter. For everyone here, hopefully, I'm not a Chinese dissident, by the way. Just want to clarify
Just put that out there.
Just put it out there. Neither am I a Chinese spy. Just make sure that it's out there. So, yeah. So, yes.
All the Chinese spies say.
Tough crowd. Yes, sir.
Doesn't the NSA take care of our privacy for us and our security?
No comment.
Nobody's hacked the NSA yet.
Yes.
It's
Have you
secure
done any
there.
research into some of the other dark web software, like maybe ZeroNet, and done any type of comparison with its security against I2P?
No, but if you want to sign up for that, come see me afterwards.
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. The question was, have I basically, organization, have looked into any of the other dark nets and made a comparison versus the Tor and I2P? And the answer is not yet. So, yeah. I mean, right now the following is, all I can say is, once we get to a significant enough following, especially with the other ones too, I imagine the same problems basically,
Yeah.
that we do that basically.
Okay.
Other questions? Yes? No, but I'll give it to you afterwards, in fact, so, yes, good question.
So did you just say that the Tor Foundation is also behind I2P?
Not the Tor Foundation,
Not
so,
Tor, but a different foundation?
I mean,
Not affiliated with Tor?
technically Electronic Frontier Foundation, so,
Okay.
everybody's better. Other questions? Where are we gonna run? Oh, yes.
Is this like DemonsSoft, the John McAfee, the privacy file sharing software?
No. So, in fact, file sharing, so you can run torrents on ITP. So it's an ITP to inside ITP completely. Since you're out of the clear net, it's actually extremely, no one's going to see you basically. With that being said, so someone has basically served up the entire, I guess, Pirate Bay inside ITP. And ITP actually, when you install it, it installs a client called I2P Snark. And what I2P Snark is your, uTorrent basically. So, right. It is more secure. In fact, it is perfectly secure in terms of file transfer. But that's not the main purpose of ITP. So, main purpose of ITP is sort of again, it goes back to having a true dark net where you can actually basically install your websites and have secure communications. Yes?
So this might be a dumb question, but I'm trying to get my head around. So we have the internet, ClearNet, we've got this, and there's potentially other kind of separate from the internet networks that are going on around the world. About how many substantial ones would you say exist right now?
I know of 3, right? Obviously, Tor is one network, obviously I2P. The third, I believe, is FreeNet. Beyond that, there's a mismatch of smaller ones, right? They don't really have much of a following right now. Don't have basically much content. And so ultimately, it's sort of survival of the fittest. I know that Tor has made a big push, basically, to try to, I don't know, so we'll see. I firmly believe, personally, if you ask my opinion, is that ITP will win this, basically. And within 5 years from now, we'll find an inversion of the number of users of ITP versus Tor.
So when someone says dark web, it means what, in your opinion?
Yes, so that's a good question, right? So a lot of people have called dark web, so to me, I should only talk about my own opinion, whatever it's worth. So I've heard basically different definitions of dark web. One of being the things behind a paywall, right? Others of being these websites that you cannot access, basically, without being on that network itself. And frankly, it could be a little bit mixture of both. If you think about the concept, if it's on behind basically a firewall, paywall, it is on a different network, right? So if you actually take a step back and just consider the generality of this, it is the same. It is a net that you don't have access to or see, that you can search behind, basically. Yes?
The term you use is paywall,
Paywall, yeah.
like a paid forum or
Yeah. Paywall is probably not the right term. It's basically, for instance, stuff that, Citibank has behind its wall that you can't see, that internal people can. Yeah. So it is paywall in the sense that, I want to say that there's a lot of corporations have a lot of data. And so I work for a firm that actually helps corporations sort of, they have so much data they don't know what to do with it, actually. So it's really funny. So they can't even search among it. So if you just imagine basically everyone working for Wells Fargo has all their data on their hard drives. Who the hell has access to all that? So, and it's an interesting problem. But, so when I say paywall, I'm sort of a little bit carryover from work and saying that these people have this stuff, they can't get it over. So, other questions? I'm talking too fast and I apologize. I should be slow. Yes,
Can
sir.
you go into a little bit more about NetDB and how it works, how does it get distributed, new hashes come in, how do we forget that?
Let's do that. Let's do that offline, basically. So, any other questions? So, if you guys want to basically install ITP, it's really simple. I'll give you the web address. Actually, I'll give the conference web address, and then everyone can install it tomorrow and have a lot of fun. So.
not under.
Yes, if you want to do it properly, you all know this, right? Set up a VPN to Amazon. So. Actually, you guys know that? Yeah, no, obviously. So. Cool.
You're going to have increased government scrutiny, you can run it locally.
Well, again, since there's only about 2,300 nodes, right? They'll think it's either you or me. So it's just an extra layer of security, basically. So, yeah. Thank you guys very much.